A few weeks ago in my blog, I showed a quilt that my friend Tana had done that used a graphic image as the center. And I really loved her layout that she used for it, which employed using some stars in the corner. But the layout has this shared corner that I really liked, and I spent some time thinking about how I would draft that in EQ. Now, since this isn't Christmas time, I thought I also want to maybe use an image other than a Santa Claus. So I did go to the Graphic Fairies site and I searched for something for flag, and I came up with this vintage 4th of July clip art. Let me just click on it here so you can see it a little bit bigger. And I thought, okay, that seems like it would be sort of a fun center for a quilt. I now want to show you how I drafted this quilt using Electric Quilt. So I wanted to start first by pulling in that Lady Liberty with flag print. So I'm going to go to the Work on Image tab. I'll do an image, import image. I had previously saved this in my downloads, so I will open it. And you'll see that it looks like it's about 12.5 by 17 inches. And that number, that's pretty large and wouldn't be easily printable on a sheet of fabric going through my printer. So I'm just going to bring that down and make this quilt a little bit smaller. I'm going to resize it to probably about 6 inches across. So if I click on Image Resize, I do want to make sure that my maintain aspect ratio is checked, and I'm going to bring the width down to 6, and it adjusts the height to 7.97. That's pretty close to 8, so I think that's okay. And now what I will do is add to sketchbook as fabric. Next step is to actually put the layout together, and so I want to go to Work on Quilt for that. So I will start in the Layout tab. I'm going to create a layout that's 1 block by 1 block, and the size is going to be the size of that resized image. So I'm going to change that to 6 by 8. And I don't want any sashed borders or at all, so those are set at 0, which is correct. Next, I'll go to the Borders tab, and for this I'm going to start with a small inner border, and I want to actually use a corner blocks for this, and I'm going to set that to 0.5. Now, one of the things I find is you can move the palette bar, but if you just click a little bit to the left of the palette bar, each of the clicks, because I've set my nudge settings to 1/4 inch, will move things by 1/4 inch. And so now I've brought everything down to 1/2 inch. And now I want to add another border. And this was a border that I hadn't actually played much with before. It's called Blocks Aligned Inside. And when you click on it, if you will notice that those corner blocks from the previous border, they are used for the alignment. Now I am going to bring the number of blocks down to 1 across or horizontal and 1 vertical. And you can see that now you're starting to see how the layout is developing there. And I'm going to change this border to 1.5 inches. So between the 1.5 there and the 1/2 inch in that first border, there's 2 inches. That's a really nice size for an 8-pointed star. Okay, and then I do need an outer border, and I'm going to set that. So I'll add a 3rd one. And I'm going to set that to 1 3/4. Okay, next step, we'll go to layer 1, and we will actually color the pieces that we know. I'm going to, oops, I didn't quite want to do that, so I'll Control Z to get rid of that. I want to use the paintbrush tool and just paint the center square with that Liberty. And then I will paint the that first set of borders with the blue. And I'm not going to worry about those up there because that's where I'm going to put my star. And then my next set is the stars. And then let's use that for the outer border. And I do need to now draft my stars, so I'm going to go and work on block, and I'm going to actually start over. I did this in practice and it's still there, but I'm going to just show you what I did real quick. I've got a setting of 4x4, snaps of 4x4, and I know this block is available in the library, but it is so fast to draw. I actually think I can draw it faster than I can find it. So create grid lines at the 1 and 3 inches, both horizontal and vertically, and then just do those flying geese units real quick there. And go to the color tab. And I've got the paintbrush. Color that, use the spray can, and color the rest, and add it to the sketchbook. And now I can go back to work on my quilt. And for this, now I'm going to go to layer 2. And I'm going to set block, and I will bring that in. And it didn't quite do the size I wanted, so I'm going to adjust it. And I'm going to adjust that block to 2x2. And I want to drag that in place, but first I'm going to just make sure my preferences are set up correctly. To do that, I'm going to more work table options. And I should have done this before I brought the block in, but for setting blocks, I should have changed it to bring them in at 2x2. And then for the snap settings, this says I'm going to snap every 1 inch, and that actually looks pretty good for this project. So I'm going to click OK on that. So now I can move that into position. Now you can just snap it in place, and I can snap this in place, and that's not too bad. I'm going to save that, but I'm also played with one of the other layouts, and I go back to layer 1, and I really sort of liked this star, but obviously it's not quite I need to rotate a couple of those fabrics, so I'm going to use the rotate button down here and rotate those. And I'm now going to use the Fussy cut, and I'm going to just reposition those so those stars are nicely centered. And I will do the same thing on the right and left side. So I really like that. So I will add that to the sketchbook as well. So I've demonstrated a few things in Electric Quilt in this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.